Area 631 was designed to allow people to come together. This becomes their day job. So think of like a startup where that is your job day and night to make sure that you're innovating. And we eliminate also all the blockers.
Welcome back to another episode of the Making of the SRE Omelette podcast, the show where we explore the positive business and client success outcome from site reliable engineering and hear from experts on how they influence the cultural and mindset shift that led to those results. I'm your host, Kevin Yu, and I'm the principal SRE at IBM AI Applications. Today's episode is on innovation, specifically how companies can foster innovation and balance it with other priorities. Speaking to us on this topic is Stephen Astorino. Stephen is the VP of Development for IBM Data and AI and the IBM Canada Lab Director. Stephen spearheaded the creation of a program called Area 631 in the Toronto lab that was a game changer in how IBM looked at bringing innovation to life. The concept was so successful in Toronto that the program has since been launched at 8 IBM software development labs. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Steve, let's get right to it. Could you please explain to the audience what Area 631 is?
Sure. Area 631 is essentially 6 people, 3 months, 1 breakthrough. And it's really about creating an environment for people to come together and innovate. Typically, as you're working on your day-to-day, it's very hard to do that. You typically have assignments, you're very stressed with pressures of timelines and so on. So it's very hard to find that time. Area 631 was really designed to allow people to come together. This becomes their day job. So think of like a startup where that is your job day and night to make sure that you're innovating. And we eliminate also all the blockers for you. So being part of IBM, we call them blockers, but we have a lot of rules and procedures we have to follow and so on. So with Area 631, we kind of eliminate that. There are really no rules and break it or make it in 3 months. So that's the idea behind it.
I think you will have many audiences from other companies also nodding their heads when you mentioned about processes. I was lucky to be a mentor and sponsor user in the very first 631 project. A quick shout out to the Log Profit AI Ops team. I was amazed at not only the velocity, but also the quality of deliverables coming out. Could you please expand on specific problems you were looking for Area 631 to solve?
Yeah, and at a high level, the problem that Area 631 is solving is really about innovation. So when I took over as lab director a few years back, I was looking at different teams within the lab were fixing different problems, actually the same problem from reinventing the wheel. Kubernetes, I remember at the time we were just getting acquainted with it and everyone was trying to innovate there. One of the things was to allow different groups from different business units to come together. So when we actually designed 631, it's developers or designers or product managers from different parts of the different business units. This allowed us to come together and one common goal, but also share expertise, collaborate on problems that we're solving independently or individually, or like you said, reinventing the wheel. So that allowed us to bring the people together and innovate. So that was the primary one. The other one is, it's like I said before, it's hard to, as you're doing your day-to-day job, to break through and innovate on things unless you're doing that outside of your regular workday, which is very busy already. So creating an environment where it allows you to spend that time, I think that was differentiating as well. And probably the last thing is we created actual physical space, which is very unique, very different than anything you would see at IBM. Yes. Very agile in its own area with the 6 different environments, places to sit in, collaboration space, whiteboards, all of that is very cool. And it created that environment where people worked well together and had a physical space to do that at.
Yeah, it's definitely a very cool place to hang out. I think it's one of the coolest. I remember when we started, there was always snacks there. It's good incentive for people to go there and collaborate and chat about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Could you give some examples of some of the success that have come out of 631?
Sure. First one I think you were on was Log Profit. That was one of the first ones that came out. And there were many reasons why we picked that one, including some clients we were working with that really needed this capability. So we called it Log Profit initially, but it really was building some AI technology around end-to-end of monitoring a system to be able to predict an outage or problems coming up in the future. At the time, they were looking for something that automated their monitoring process to make sure they predict these types of failures or outages. Right. So that was the idea behind that first one. It was very successful. It really took off. It was a lot of attention. And by the way, that became the Watson AI Ops product. And initially it was like a mini business unit that Arvind created. And now it's part of the automation team. So, yeah.
And it's like an industry-wide initiative around AI operations, right? Yeah.
So it was very cool. So that was one. Another one we did was in Germany as we branched off to different countries, as you mentioned at the beginning. Right. There's a power rankings one. And
that one is fascinating.
It's fascinating. Actually, that one made on Forbes magazine as well.
I mean, it's even on Blizzard.
Yeah. it's really cool as well. But basically, looking at, again, leveraging AI and looking at rankings of the players and so on, and it provides insights. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I thought that's interesting. Traditionally, people think about IBM as operating the enterprise space.
Yeah.
Here you are, an innovation that gets into esports.
Right. It's totally different. Yeah, and absolutely.
Right. No, that's fantastic. Could you share with the audience how you justify the investment of 631? You mentioned 6 people.
Yeah.
For 3 months.
Yeah.
How did you justify that kind of investment with your leadership team?
Yeah. I can tell you at the very beginning it was hard, much harder. Then as you see the success, it's much easier to get buy-in and to get support. At the end of the day, it's really about innovation is core to us. It always has been. And we need to make sure that we make room for that and invest in it. Some personal fight for me to go and secure some of this funding. And we did that initially. Right. And then after Log Profit, and then we started on the second one, it was much easier. But a lot of basically ask for favors and so on for different business units to contribute. The value was obvious afterwards, but kind of that's how it worked. But then now it's, again, in 8 different countries or so, and everyone sees the value, so everyone wants to. Believe it or not, after the first few, we had people lining up that wanted to join the program. Because it feels like you're breaking out of your day-to-day and you're working on a new cool startup type of environment. So people enjoy that, right?
For me, as you said, it was really good to break out the day-to-day routine. And I also had the opportunity to meet with people I otherwise wouldn't have. So that was a great experience. So Steve, I want to take a minute to thank you on behalf of everyone who has, and will be able to experience this because you picked up that fight to make it happen. Thank you so much. Steve, you talk about the value of 631. Can you give some examples of it, perhaps from the angle of both the business and tech vitality?
Log Profit was one example. We also had some cloud projects that we did with an external startup incubator for our IBM Cloud to make it easier to onboard, as an example. The idea here is after the 3 months, these projects essentially graduate. And once they graduate, we decide where they fit in and where they go. But typically, they end up in one of our business units, improving one of our technology or a feature of our technology or so on. So it's kind of if it's a new idea, it's the starting point of something bigger for the future. If it's an existing solution, and then it's an improvements, the features, enhancements. But we basically take that code, including the team sometimes, and we integrate it into the business units. So the value is pretty obvious there in terms of the return on investment and what it brings to the table. I think it's something that's needed. It's working. It's a great model, and we've had lots of examples. One that we did is our sales configurator for all the cloud packs. So we started with Cloud Pak for Data, and then all the cloud packs are adopting it now. But basically give a tool for the salespeople to go in and figure out the licensing and the VPCs and the cost of everything. And because it's OpenShift and everything else, it's a complex matrix. Yeah. So it's very simple. You make your selection, it tells you exactly what you need. It spreads out spreadsheet with all the information, and it ties it into our sales tool as well.
Wow. I laugh because VPC, it sounds like a 3 simple acronyms, but there's so much math behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another example. But the value is pretty obvious. So it's really good.
Thanks for sharing those fantastic examples. Let's pivot for a bit.
Yep.
One of the purpose of this podcast is to drive the tech vitality of site reliability engineering.
Yep.
Many of the 631 projects involved solving problems in the operations domain. Steve, perhaps some words of wisdom to both current and future practitioners. What do you think are the next set of innovation needed by SRE?
I think automation is a big thing, being able to automate the manual processes so that we can help our customers. That's definitely an important one. Security is another aspect of that. In terms of our customers, they expect 100% uptime. Forget the 3 nines, 4 nines, 5 nines, right? They're expecting 100%. So anything that we got to automate to make our job more reliable, the experience more reliable, the customer happier, all of those are critical, right? So to me, it would be how can we automate the things that we have to do manually, where as humans, it's hard to stay on top of it on a consistent basis, right? And whether it's, looking through logs and the volume and the amount and like all of that stuff, right? Looking for the right characteristics and behaviors and all of that. Anything we can automate around that is a significant boost to our productivity and the experience of the customer.
I like it. Leverage automation to meet customer expectations, drive client success, and in turn make it easier for us to run our business. So Steve, you took us through a great journey that captured the story of 631, its motivation, problems it solved, as well as steps you took to make it real. In closing, let's go back to the inspiration of this podcast, but switch it to innovation. What would be your ingredient and recipe to foster innovation at the workplace?
For me, it's we really need to make room and an environment for our people to be able to innovate. I think the biggest blocker we have is we're too busy. We can't be too busy to innovate. So we have to create that environment. I think that's probably the most important piece. The other one is it's okay to fail. And we forget that sometimes, and everyone wants to try something and expect it to just work or be successful all the times. In fact, that's far from reality, far from what you should expect. Innovation is you have to fail many times before you succeed. So that's the advice. I know that's what I do within my teams and with the programs I create. And by the way, there's a new program. I don't want to deviate all of that I started last year called HyperBlue. Oh. It's the next iteration or the evolution of the Area 631 project.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just to give 30 seconds on that, it's HyperBlue is it's a true startup program where we invest as VCs into these. So it's a Shark Tank style type of setup. In fact, we record the shows like the Shark Tank does. And we allow people to pitch their ideas, and then we decide if we invest. And last year we invested in 7, and they're actually all doing really well. So they have clients, and we're starting to monetize on those innovations.
Wow, that's awesome. IT celebrities. I gotta talk to my agent to get myself on that show.
Absolutely.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Astorino, IBM VP, Canada Lab Director, and Champion of Innovation at the Enterprise. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And I'd like to thank you, the audience, for listening. See you again on an upcoming episode.